Now, as South Africa marks Youth Day, youth unemployment is still the biggest headache. In his address at Government's Youth Day rally, Deputy President Paul Mashatile says the fact that millions of young people can't find work, it's equally worrying that some young people are not in school, working, or even in any kind of training. The Deputy President is saying that this is more than just an economic issue, but a moral emergency. Youth Capital has launched what it calls #Thethangeunemployment to highlight this particular issue and more. Let's get to the details now. We speak to Network Mobiliser at Advocacy campaign, Youth Capital Nape Senong. Good evening to you and thank you so much for your time. And I was just going through your website a little earlier on and I see this conversation game. Quite an interesting one. Tell us, how does it work?
Thank you for having us on the show. So the Thethangeunemployment conversation card game, I have one here with me, basically is a conversation card game with conversation prompts that is really was developed with young South Africans on this sort of like, idea or sort of this observation that we've made that as South Africans, we are not talking to each other a lot. South Africa is already a very fragmented country along racial lines, along class lines. We are one of the most unequal countries in the world. So all of those obstacles sort of make it difficult for us as South Africans to have conversations. And also having one of the highest unemployment rates in the world, with particularly affecting young people, with young people not working, it's very difficult to engage young South Africans in having these conversations around the advocacy that we need to do in terms of solving the problem. So these card games are a way for us to be able to have conversations amongst each other intergenerationally across racial divides and across class lines to really, bring our perspectives into the challenge that we are having and also re-engage in the challenges that we face.
And it's quite interesting because some of the questions that are being asked there are quite the eye-opener, and it's things that people can say without even thinking. Like, for example, are young people, as lazy as, some make it out to be? But also, when you look at the fact that there's also some questions that look at what role could you play to support more young people? What makes you feel that, in fact, you have succeeded or have made it in life? And I suppose it gets us talking and keeping the issue of unemployment and some of the struggles that young people are facing as top of mind.
Yes, it really does, because in as much as unemployment affects mostly young people and particularly young Black women, it is a collective challenge. It's not up to young people only to sort of have solutions to unemployment, because there's also a lot of shaming around unemployment that as young people, we often feel like it's our fault that we don't have work. But the truth of the matter is that unemployment in South Africa is a systemic structural issue, and it really needs structural sort of like responses. So the card game has been very good in terms of reminding young people as we talk amongst each other or we talk with other leaders. I've played the cards with some members of parliament. It really reminds us that it's not your fault, but there is something that can be done. And also, as I said, as a country, we are quite divided. And, because of class line, racial lines, unemployment does not hit us the same as different people.
And especially because, one of the questions there really prompted one to ask about the big issue of the cost of unemployment, actually, because that in and itself is a cost alone, especially when you think about the fact that a young person looking for work needs to buy data, needs to make sure they make photocopies, needs to get to the places where there could be different, interviews and all of that. That requires money at the end of the day.
True, it does. So at Youth Capital, what we have also done in our work, in our research line of work, is we commissioned a research study that is called The Cost of Looking for Work. And we found out that on average, young people spend at least 1,000 Rand a month to look for work. A majority of that money, of course, going to transport, but also, as you mentioned, there's data cost and all of that. And as we are reflecting on, Youth Day today, we know that we have a very dark past, and part of that dark past is the spatial apartheid planning that is still very present in our everyday lives. So young people find themselves sometimes in these economic deserts, in townships, in rural areas where there's not enough job opportunities. So they have to, transport themselves to get to these spaces where there is opportunities to engage in the economy. So the cards have helped us, but also elements of the research work have really helped us to understand the realities of young people on the ground.
How does one get a hold of the cards?
So the cards currently, they are being retailed at the book lounge here in Cape Town. We do have some cards at Humble Coffee in Durban. We also have some cards selling through the Daily Maverick online shop. But at the moment, as Youth Capital, we are in the process of building an online shop on our website, and we're selling the cards right now at 80 Rand, and it's not to make profit because we are an incubated project in the DG Married Trust, but it's to just ensure that it's for sustainability, for us to print more cards and even have reiterations as we get feedback from our community. So at the moment, those are the places that you can find our cards, but you can also just reach out to us directly with our contact details being on the website, or send us a DM on social media. We're very active in that space, and then we can arrange for you to receive the cards.
Nape, I appreciate your time this afternoon. Thank you so much for talking to us. That was the Network Mobiliser to Advocacy Campaign Youth Capital Nape Senong. On that note, Mawande is coming up next with sport.